Hello, this is Desiree Delahant. This is my EDL 851 Module 13 video and slideshow. This is the case study. It's over a good teacher turned bad. Stress at home creates problems at school. I broke it into the three categories: who, where, and what. For the who, the first person is Mrs. Horton, and she's a former Teacher of the Year. We're actually reading about this from the perspective of Mrs. Wilson, and she is in her third year as the elementary school principal. And Mr. Stafford is one of many angry parents who we are seeing in a conference in this video, in this case study. The where is Crestview Elementary School. It's a rural area, and it's also a high-achieving school. And we are in a first grade classroom, and she is a veteran teacher. And as I said, she is also the former Teacher of the Year. And the what in this case is a teacher going through a separation. Her and her husband have moved apart from each other. She also has children, and she has had a lot of issues since the separation started. There are parents calling in to complain about the treatment of their children. They want them moved from her classroom. And then toward the end of this case study, the teacher actually gets into an argument at with a parent at a conference. Category 1 is the problem identification and analysis. What do we know? We know that her professional attitude has changed. She's really negative to the other staff. Upset parents want their students moved. A lot of them are asking for them to be moved immediately because their students are crying at home and they are very unhappy and they don't want to go to school anymore. We also know that Mrs. Horton needs removed from the situation immediately, and I will talk more about my view on that in the next couple of slides. What do we need to know? Can she change her behavior? Can her job be salvaged? And do I have enough documentation if I need to terminate her? As for identifying the problem, first of all, Mrs. Horton has disrespected students and parents. Second of all, I may need to fill a new position. I might be hiring a new teacher or finding a long-term sub. And lastly, there may be illegal issues with this termination, so I need to know more about that. Category 2, the proposed plan of action with appropriate strategies for implementation. I had a hard time choosing just one plan, so I chose two plans, and I will discuss them separate from each other. But my first plan of action is Plan A. If I were to choose which one I would go with as a building leader, this is the one I would choose first. The first thing I want to do is provide support for Mrs. Horton. So step 1 would be to remove her for a week. Step 2, conference the next day with the superintendent of schools and Mrs. Horton. Step 3, in order for her to keep her job, I would require she has counseling. And step 4, if she decides that she is going to accept my proposition, she would be monitored very closely in the coming weeks. Plan B, this is my backup plan. If Plan A falls through, then my second plan would be to terminate Mrs. Horton. First of all, I would remove her permanently from the situation. Secondly, I would need to gather documentation and parent statements so that for step 3, when I conference with the superintendent about the termination, I have enough documentation and my reason why. And then the last step 4, would be to hand deliver the termination notice to Mrs. Horton. Category 3 is to resolve the issue based on promoting the success of all students. So again, I have it separated into Plan A and Plan B. So Plan A is, like I said, to keep Mrs. Horton. She was once a Teacher of the Year. The behavior is only because of a stressful situation at home. She had been a great teacher for 13 years with this school, and I think that with counseling, she could be a great teacher again. Plan B for the success of all students would be to terminate Mrs. Horton, and like I said, if my Plan A falls through, she has verbally attacked a parent. Her attitude with her peers has changed, so she's kind of not been very fun to be around at school, and she doesn't agree with anybody else's opinions anymore. She's not much of a team player. And then the last one would be to remove her, would cause less stress for the students. Category 4, debrief the problem. I want to save her job and give her a chance. She was a good teacher, and I did value her service to the school if I was the building leader. Everyone has struggles and makes mistakes. I think that she can fix this situation if she really wants to. If she didn't fix it, I think I would need to let her go. She was out of line. She was very unprofessional with parents and with staff in the building. I feel very disappointed in the actions that she has been showing. I do value the opinions of the parents. So as a parent, I would want my students to be happy at school. I have a little boy who's going to be in first grade next year, and if he came home crying every day, I think I would be in the same situation as the parents that she is teaching. They were worried about the children's mental health, which is not good for anybody involved, especially little kids. She's teaching first graders. I feel that I still don't know what the answer would be. I'm not sure if she would want to keep her job and if she would do what I'm asking for her to keep her job. If she did, how would the parents feel about her getting a second chance? They asked for their children to be removed. Would they still want to have their children removed, even if she's doing counseling and she's working through her issues and her attitude changed once she got that counseling? I don't know. That's something that I would have to see as the plan progresses. Category 5, reflection on Standard 2. Standard 2 is instructional capacity. An educational leader promotes the academic success and personal well-being of every student by enhancing the instructional capacity. So component 1 is to promote the academic success of every student. I'm trying to save her job to help provide academic success for students. She's a veteran teacher. She was Teacher of the Year, so we know she was a good teacher, and it would be good for students to have her in the classroom if she reverted back to what she had been. She will be monitored to enhance academic success. She will have multiple random walkthroughs and feedback will be provided to her, and I would try to do that immediately. I would conference with her every day if that needed to be. I would walk through every day if it needed to be. Any kind of situation that arose, I would conference with her about that immediately. And then if none of this works, she will be replaced by a qualified teacher. Component 2 is to promote the personal well-being of the students. In both of my plans, Mrs. Horton was removed immediately. So removal is protecting both the students and Mrs. Horton from the heat of the moment comments, but it's protecting the students from getting some backlash after she had just talked to the father and she was really angry. Getting her out of there for the rest of the day or even the week would help her to cool down and hopefully get my plan A rolling. In plan 2, she was removed permanently. This would prevent any anger from the situation being transferred onto the students. So that also protects the personal well-being. We know that when we conferenced with her, she was very angry. So we would not want to put her back into a classroom with students after that. Component 3, enhance the instructional capacity. Counseling for Mrs. Horton will be a requirement if she agrees. I think this way she could work through some of her issues. If I were going through a divorce, I know that I would be kind of a mess. And sometimes it is hard to keep your personal life at home and keep it away from work. However, we need to, as professionals, make sure we're doing that. I think she would be a resource to the school if she does start healing and starts feeling better, because we know she's got 13 years of a great teaching record. She can revert back to that as long as she's getting some assistance. I think if not, a long-term substitute could be hired to teach for the rest of the year. Obviously, they would need some help, some monitoring and some walkthroughs for themselves, feedback for them. And then the following school year, we could interview high-quality instructors for the position so that they are still getting a high-quality education. That was my Module 13. Thank you for watching.